Hi guys, in this video we're going to be looking at the menstrual cycle. We're going to talk about what it is and then go through the cycle, starting with the beginning, then look at the role of estrogen, when ovulation occurs, the role of progesterone, and the end of the cycle coming back around to menstruation itself. The menstrual cycle is a process that happens in the female body in those females who are of childbearing age. So this lasts from puberty through to menopause. The role of the menstrual cycle is to prepare the uterus for pregnancy and for the implantation of the zygote or blastocyst into the uterine wall, as well as release the ovum that can be fertilized by the sperm, and reset if that ovum is not fertilized, reset the uterus to go through the process again. There are a few different hormones which regulate the menstrual cycle, the main ones being estrogen and progesterone, and we'll look at how they work shortly. Now, before we get into the cycle generally runs on a 28-day period. But this is not true for everyone. In fact, it generally is not true for anyone. Normal can be considered anywhere from about 18 days up to about 35 days is considered in the normal range. Particularly for young girls going through puberty, the menstrual cycle is not going to be a clockwork 28 days. In this video, I have used the textbook 28 days, but I just wanted to point out that the textbook case is not the majority of the case. Okay, so the start of the cycle. Now we define the first day of the menstrual cycle as the first day of menstruation. And we'll get into menstruation later on, but what I want you to know is that at this time, an immature ovum, so a female gamete in the ovary, in a follicle of the ovary, starts to mature. And it will mature all the way up until ovulation occurs and it is released. Important in the early part of the menstrual cycle is estrogen. And estrogen is produced by the ovaries, and what it does is it causes the uterine wall, or the wall of the uterus, to increase in thickness. Ovulation occurs around the middle of the menstrual cycle, although it can be as early as day 10 or as late as day 18 and still be considered within the normal range. The ovum, which has been maturing in the ovarian follicle, or the follicle in the ovary, over the last 14 days or so, has finally reached maturity and is released from that follicle into the oviduct or fallopian tubes. This release is stimulated by two hormones, being the follicle stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone, which peak just before ovulation occurs. Another thing that peaks during ovulation is body temperature, and you can actually measure a small change in body temperature. And when I say small, I'm talking about 0.2 of a degree. Small, but still measurable. Around this time, the amount of progesterone produced by the ovaries starts to increase. And this progesterone continues to thicken the uterine wall, as well as preparing the uterine wall for the implantation of a blastocyst. Now, blastocyst is a bunch of cells, so we have a fertilized ovum or egg, and that then starts dividing. And once it's in a whole group of cells, so we're talking about 50 cells, it's referred to as a blastocyst, and that blastocyst implants on the wall of the uterus. And this is why this whole process of thickening that wall and preparing it for that implantation occurs, so that blastocyst can get the nourishment from that thick uterine wall, as well as start forming things like the placenta. Once we get to the end of the cycle, if by about day 25 implantation has not occurred, so that fertilisation and implantation has not occurred, the hormone levels start to drop back down, this bringing us to the end of the cycle. At this point, we get into the menstruation of the next cycle, or this cycle, but because of where we start the cycle, it's actually goes into the next 28-day period. The wall of the uterus, which has been thickening throughout this period, is no longer needed because that implantation has not occurred, and is shed and expelled from the body in what is known as menstruation. During this time, a lady will wear either a tampon, which is inserted into the vagina to catch that menstrual blood, or a sanitary pad, which is worn inside the underwear. In this video, we have looked at the menstrual cycle. We've looked at the start of the cycle, where an ovum is starting to mature in the follicle. We have the increase of estrogen, which increases the thickness of the uterine wall. Ovulation that occurs in the middle, where the ovum is released from the follicle. The increase in the amount of progesterone, which makes the uterine wall ready for implantation. And then if that does not occur, the end of the cycle where the hormone levels decrease. And finally, menstruation, where that uterine wall is shed and expelled from the body. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace out.